Hi, my name is Bob Helmbrecht with Coldwell Banker. I'm a realtor in Bridgewater, New Jersey, and also one half of the husband and wife real estate team of JoAnn and Bob with my wife JoAnn Maddalena. The topic I want to talk about today is why houses may not sell during their listing period. We've been doing real estate for about 17 years now, and one question we get frequently in our email or phone calls is from sellers who've been listed with another agent. The house was on the market during the listing period and it didn't sell. And the question they always have is why? Why didn't my house sell? What could we have done differently? A lot of times they'll say, the agent, they came in, they said they loved the house, we listed it, but then afterwards, the only idea they had was to keep reducing the price. And the price sometimes is the issue, but what we found over the years is there are really kind of several common causes and issues that can result in a house not selling. The first one is, did you have the right agent in the first place? Was your agent local? We see a lot of times it may be an agent who's from out of the area. Maybe the seller was buying a house 25 miles away and decided, well, we'll just use that agent and have them list our house. Or maybe it's an agent who's not really experienced in that type of house. Maybe they usually do townhouses and this was a single family home out of their price range. Or maybe it's they normally do rentals and this was a sale. Or it may just be an agent who just wasn't that experienced at all. Maybe they haven't done many transactions, maybe they're part-time. Another very common issue is also, did the seller have good communication with their agent? You really need an agent who is going to come and talk to you about things, who's going to tell you what's happening in the market, who's going to be giving you feedback on buyer showings. So if you were the person who was always calling your agent, what did those people think about the house when they saw it Saturday? Are you doing an open house next weekend or not? Is there been any other sales in the neighborhood I should know about? That's an indication that you may not have had the right agent for the property. Second issue that comes up a lot of times is the marketing. The marketing on a property always starts with the photos. Your house, especially in this day and age, really should have professional photography done, or at least an experienced agent who's using professional quality camera equipment. We still see a lot of houses where the agent obviously has just still been using a little point and click camera, maybe their cell phone, and you can get some decent pictures like that, but really not the high quality photos that you want to make sure that your house stands out from all the other ones on the market. Also, what's important is the description. We put houses on the multiple listing service, which is where we share information with other agents. There are a lot of abbreviations, a lot of shorthand, and the other agents know what that means, because we're trying to just pack as much information about the house as we possibly can into some fairly limited fields where we can put the information. But if the agent just kind of leaves it at that and lets that information get disseminated to all the online syndication sites like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, then that's what the buyer is also going to see. So you really need to make sure, take a look, did the agent write up an appealing property description for this house? A real narrative that is going to attract buyers, or did they just leave this jumble of shorthand and abbreviations and acronyms that really don't present your house in the best light? And you also may have to make sure that the agent was actually looking at the descriptions at all. We had a call this summer on a house, and somebody wanted some information on it, wanted to know if it was still on the market. And when they said the address, I kind of, was taken aback a bit, and we sold this house 10 years ago. Why is it on Zillow? And we went and took a look, and the house had actually been sold a few years after we sold it and was now on the market again. And clearly neither of those two agents had even looked at it on Zillow, because our old description was still on there from 8 or 10 years ago with our contact information telling people to contact us if they had any questions about the house. So again, that's clearly a house where the agent is not paying attention to the marketing, is not being proactive, and again, is not likely to result in a really good sale for the house. You also need to make sure that the advertising is being done effectively. For example, social media marketing. Every agent is going to say, oh yeah, we'll put your house on Facebook. But there's a lot of difference between an agent just putting it up there on their page where 150 of their high school classmates and family and friends see it, versus boosting it or running a Facebook ad that's targeted towards consumers, towards people in various demographics, different behaviors, to make sure that your house is getting in front of potential buyers and not just sitting on some agent's lightly visited Facebook page. And again, going back to communication, your agent should also be able to tell you what's been going on with the advertising. How many times did somebody see this house on Zillow? How many times has it shown up in the search results? How many people actually saw the house on Facebook? So if if your listing has hit the end of the listing period and you don't have any idea how effective the advertising was, again, that's probably a good indication that you did not have good communication with your agent, and they may not have even known that information themselves. The third common problem is the issue of, was the house actually really ready to sell or not? Was it decluttered? Were things done to improve the curb appeal of the property? Did your agent tell you about these things? Again, goes back to communication. Some agents don't want to have these possibly uncomfortable conversations with the sellers where they're telling them, no, you need to make changes in this house. You need to remove these things. You need to do these repairs if you really are going to get the price that you want to get for this house. Were the major and minor repairs dealt with? Minor repairs could be things like, leaky faucets, switches that don't work, pieces of molding that have come loose or might be missing from a paint job in the past. And again, you might kind of look at that and say, well, is a leaky faucet really going to stop the house from selling? And it can impact that. Buyers today are looking for houses that they can just move into. Most people don't want to do any work. A lot of people don't even know how to do the work themselves on the houses anymore. A lot of times buyers kind of look at some of these issues and they haven't done the work, and they kind of maybe think it's going to be a more expensive repair than it is. Some of the major issues, for example, say a buried oil tank, for example. You've seen sellers who, they didn't want to know. They said, well, could be one, but, let's not find out. The problem with that is, if you're in a neighborhood that is known that where people have had oil tanks, nobody is going to buy that house without doing a tank sweep. They're fairly inexpensive. Nobody's home inspector, nobody's attorney is going to recommend, no, don't bother getting the oil tank sweep done. And as bad as it is to find a buried oil tank, it's a lot worse to find that once the house has been on the market for 2 months, and now you've got a contract, and now the contract has fallen through, and now you have to deal with it, and then you end up having to put the house back on the market a few months later. It's a lot better, if at all possible, to deal with these issues ahead of time, so that when people come in and say, do you guys have a buried oil tank here? You can say, they did have one, look, it's been remediated, it was done properly, and here's my paperwork, giving the house a clean bill of health. And this could also include things like, septics. If you suspect the septic might be bad, well, the buyer's probably going to get inspection on that too. If you haven't had your fireplace cleaned in years and years, the buyer, chances are, is going to get a chimney inspection. So again, these are kind of things that can sidetrack a deal, that can result in you losing days on market, could push your sale into a less active time of the year. And again, these are a lot of things that we frequently come across when we see a house that didn't sell during the time it was listed. And then the final issue then is the price. Sometimes it is just an overpriced house. So a lot of things we look at with that is, how did they come up with the price initially? Did someone do a full CMA, comparative market analysis, on the house? Or did maybe the seller just had a price in mind and hoped for that, and the agent just said, oh sure, we'll list it for that? Did you have a strategy for pricing the house? A lot of people, for example, we'll say, well, let's just price it up here, and then if it doesn't sell in 2 weeks, we'll drop it down to here. Typically, that's not an effective strategy, unless the agent has really messed up the pricing of the house in the first place. Because those first couple weeks on the market are really when you get the bulk of, the best showing activity, the most motivated buyers. And a lot of times they may not come back. They may not notice the price change. So instead of having a motivated buyer who sees the house right away and says, okay, let's put in an offer, they may be walking out and say, well, it's kind of high. And then a lot of times they may see that price reduction in 2 weeks and say, well, let's give it a month or two and see if they come down again. So again, typically our recommendation is to price it correctly initially, because our experience has been that is really the best way to get the best price for the house. Another question we always ask in this situation is, did you have any offers? If the house was marketed properly, you had good communication, and you had offers, well, you really need to look at that and see what were those offers telling you. We've had situations where we've asked that, and the seller might say, well, yeah, we had 3 offers over the 6 months. They all kind of maxed out around 470, but we really wanted 500 for the house. Well, if you've had offers consistently in a price range, chances are that's the market telling you, this is the value of the house in this market at this time. So again, looking back at offer activity is a really good way to make sure that you are getting the house correctly priced. Another thing is, were you or your agent actively looking at what else was happening on the market? Other things coming on in the neighborhood or selling in the neighborhood that might have impacted your price. If you have a 3-bedroom townhouse that you put on the market for $300,000, and then 2 days later someone put the same unit, the same condition on the market for $295, that's something you really need to know about. Or if you put your house on and then all of a sudden 2 other units were on the market and saw your house go on and they dropped their prices below yours, if your agent isn't actively looking at that and isn't actively communicating that to you, you could be losing a lot of time on the market and not being in a good position. We've seen that a lot of times. Your house may be listed for $300,000 and you're seeing all these other ones selling that are maybe just under. And what we usually say in the real estate business is, that house is selling all these other ones. You don't want to be the house that people are coming into and then going in and buying other houses because they look like such a better deal in that price range. And again, all of this really comes back to communication, comes back to the experience of the agent, and really comes down to the relationship that the agent and the seller have with each other. So as I said, we've been doing this for a long time. We've been the 2nd agent in on a lot of houses. We've even been the 3rd agent in on some of them. And we're always happy to talk to sellers about why their house didn't sell and what we can do to make sure it sells now. If you'd like to do this, go visit our website. I'll have a link in the description below. We have a link, it's under expired listing analysis, where you can give us your property address and property details, and we'll take a look at your expired listing, try to get a feel for what some of the issues could have been, what else was happening in the market at that time, and try to give you an idea of why your house didn't sell and what we could do differently to get you to a successful sale. And again, that form is very easy, it's quick to fill out, and we're always happy to sit down and talk to you about it further. So if your house didn't sell while it was listed, or if you just want to hire the right agent in the first place, take a look at our website, www.joannandbob.com, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.